Fidel V. Ramos, a man of great courage. He was born on March 18, 1928 on Lingayen, Pangasinan to both influential and successful parents. His father, Narciso Ramos, was a lawyer, journalist, and just so happened to be a five-term legislator of the House of Representatives. And his mother, Angela Valdez Ramos, was an educator, woman suffragette, and a daughter of the respected Valdez clan of Batac, Ilocos Norte, making him a second-degree cousin to Ferdinand Marcos. He married Amelita Martinez on October 21, 1954, and had five daughters, namely Ramos Jones, Josephine Ramos Sammartino, Carolina Ramos Sobrano, Cristina Ramos Halasco, and Gloria Ramos. Young Ramos started his military career after graduating at the United States Military Academy at West Point in 1950. Along with the Philippines 20th Battalion Combat Team and his fellow West Point graduates of the 1950s, Ramos fought in the Korean War. Furthermore, he was regarded as one of the heroes of the Battle of Hill Erie and was also present in the Vietnam War as a non-combat civil military engineer and commanding officer of the Philippine Civil Action Group. Ramos has received several military awards, including of which are the Philippine Legion of Honor, the Distinguished Conduct Star, Philippine Military Merit Medal, the United States Legion of Merit, the French Legion of Honor, and the U.S. Military Academy Distinguished Graduate Award. During his stint at the Philippine Army, Ramos founded the Philippine Army Special Forces and was elected the commander of the Army's 3rd Division based in Cebu City, Cebu. Heading the Philippine Constabulary or PC at that time, Ramos was responsible for the arrest of political personalities, communists, media, and activists. However, as PC chief, Ramos initiated measures to ensure that the rights of the political detainees were protected and respected. He would also build the fighting capabilities of the PC at the latter parts. On 1975, all city and municipal police forces in the country were integrated by a decree issued by Marcos, and it became known as the Integrated National Police or INP, thereby attaching it under the control and supervision of the PC, which Ramos headed. Thus, he was also the INP's first concurrent Director General. Due to his accomplishments, Ramos became one of the candidates to become the new Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces of the Philippines in 1981. Marcos appointed his trusted military officer, General Fabian Ver, into the top military post, and Ramos was named to be the Vice Chief of Staff of the AFP on 1982, thus becoming the military's second most powerful official after Ver. As such, he was promoted into the rank of an honorable 3-star general. Ramos also became the acting AFP Chief of Staff for a short time and formed the Special Action Force of the Philippine Constabulary to deal with terrorist-related crimes. Well, you see, Ramos had a great educational background. After finishing his secondary education in Central Escolar University in Manila, he flew off to the US and there graduated at the United States Military Academy. He bagged home one master's degree to another from institutes such as the University of Illinois, the National Security Administration of the National Defense College of the Philippines, and another from Ateneo de Manila University. And from here, we see our young and hopeful President Lee engaging himself in and around the rims of military control.
And so, the story went on like we all know. Ramos ran for the 1992 presidency under the Partido Lakas ng Tao, with Cebu Governor Emilio Mario Osmeña as his vice president. Capturing the populace by his consistency, as evident by his nickname Steady Eddie, Ramos became the 12th president of the Philippines, while his running mate Osmeña lost to Joseph Estrada. Despite the glorious victory, Ramos only gained 23.58% of the total vote, which is the lowest plurality ever gained in Philippine history. Ramos, at the age of 64, was also the oldest person to assume presidency. Not to mention, he is also the first Protestant president of the country. Nevertheless, his years of administration were depicted as a time for national reform. During his regime, the country flourished in terms of economic growth, technological development, and political stability.
However, events prior to Ramos's presidency led the Philippines under heavy economic difficulties. Such event is a military coup d'etat attempt led by Gregorio Nasser that caused the withdrawal of a number of foreign investors within the country. An issue that Ramos immediately settled by initiating plans for economic reforms which covered the reopening of the national economy, establishment of private companies, and expanding foreign investments. New taxation system were also implemented, including the EVAT tax law that increased the VAT from 4% to 10% as mandated by the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. The increase in tax reduced the country's external debt and therefore left it easier to be addressed.
A drop of 5.9% in the annual inflation rate was observed during 1995. Upon the year 1996, GNP grew at a rate of 7.2% and GDP at 5.2%. In the mid-1990s, the Philippine Stock Exchange was considered one of the best in the world. By the late 1990s, the Philippines became a competitive country in terms of economic growth, along with Taiwan, Thailand, South Korea, and Malaysia, transforming the segment of Asia into the economic tiger. Ramos by then also led the 4th Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Leaders Summit in the Philippines on November 1996.
Unfortunately though, it wasn't all glory for Ramos, or for our country in that case. A detrimental economic decline shook the foundations of the Philippines.
Due to the Asian financial crisis of 1997, GNP decreased, stock market fell, and the country's currency was devaluated. This phenomenon also resulted to the rise of the rate of unemployment, increasing number of businesses shutting down, and reduced import of products. The country's economic growth diminished from 5.2% in 1997 to negative 0.6% in 1998. But the story does not end there. The country was able to gain economic growth by 3.4% in 1999.
Ramos's administration was also characterized by the peace treaty made with the hostile rebels. He patiently negotiated with the different Muslim groups before coming into a peace agreement between both sides. These groups were the Moro National Liberation Front led by Nur Mizwari, the Moro Islamic Liberation Front led by Salamat Hashim, and the Communist Party of the Philippines National Democratic Front, which took control of the New People's Army led by Jose Maria Sison. Because of the many coup d'etat attempts that took place, the government merely collapsed and lost the trust of their people.
Through his efforts, programs, and laws, Ramos was able to restore political stability and build a strong nation out of skillful leadership and keen management.
The country's economic gains were short-lived. Thus, the Philippines was not immune to crisis after all. The 1997 Asian financial crisis hit the country hard, devaluating the peso, closing down businesses, and rendering people jobless. All this happened with Ramos having his one last year at the presidential palace.
However, Ramos's term did not fail to contribute positive effects to the nation. His governance was marked with organizations of cooperatives, end of the power crisis, economies of scale enhancing the productivity of the farmers, revival of the country's economy, and of oligopolies in shipping, telecommunications, and banking, increased average income of families and households, and finally, perhaps one of the greatest contributions his regime achieved, the peace with Muslim military rebels.
History will remember Ramos as the most competent president after Marcos.
His brilliance,
Leadership qualities and positive attitude continued to lure people to him. His advice on national security and strengthening the economy is still widely sought out locally and internationally up to this day.